You can hear weakness long before you see it. It rarely arrives as trembling or apology. It slips through the mouth wearing the mask of honesty. I can't. Two short words that feel like a diagnosis when they are only a decision. Put them between yourself and the next action, and you will watch the task swell. Your shoulders droop, and your options narrow. It seems harmless because it sounds realistic, even mature. But realism without responsibility is just surrender reversed. The Stoic hears those words and refuses to sign them. He pauses, inspects the thought, and asks whether it is a fact or merely the first panic presenting its papers. Picture a normal Tuesday. It's 6:07 p.m. You are tired, the office air is stale, and a colleague lands a problem on your desk with a deadline stamped for morning. Your stomach tightens. Your mind projects failure in high definition. The phrase appears like a muscle memory. I can't. You do not say it out loud. Civilized people really do. You whisper it to your spine, and your posture folds a few millimeters. The clock seems to speed up. The room seems to shrink. Nothing physical has changed, yet your capacity feels smaller because your judgment told it to be. Marcus Aurelius writes that the mind can turn obstacles into fuel. Epictetus insists that events do not disturb us, or judgments do. I can't masquerade as a deception when it's judgment wearing a lab coat. The move is subtle. You demote your will from governor to spectator. A Stoic does not answer with noise or bravado. He performs a quiet reclassification. Hard becomes trainable. Unknown becomes learnable. Threat becomes material. The sentence that replaces the poison is simple and honest. I don't yet know how, but I will find a way. Do this exercise before the days runs away from you. Write the task you are dodging, the difficult conversation, the overdue negotiation, the run you keep postponing because the first kilometer will hurt. Complete the sentence on paper. I can't do X because X. Now read it as if it belonged to a stranger. Is it because a law of nature or just the discomfort of being a beginner again? Divide the reasons into three buckets: inside my control, outside my control, and mixed. Put a star next to everything inside. That is your curriculum. What sits outside your control is not your master. It is a boundary within which your training must occur. Morning is where the battle is usually won or thrown away. If you let your first impressions of the day sign contracts in your name, your afternoon will be a hostage. Sit at the edge of the bed for 2 minutes before touching a screen and run a simple inventory. What will try to intimidate me today? And what words will I refuse to sign? Say them out loud so you can hear how small they sound in the daylight. Then pre-commit to the counterphrase. I don't know yet how, but I will find a way. And here is my next smallest action. Name that action in a single verb and a single noun. Send draft, call client, white paragraph, book session, and stand up to do it. Throughout the day, treat alarms as information, not instruction. The first tug of I can't is usually the nervous system reporting that a task exceeds the exact width of your comfort. Good. Growth lives at the edges. Ask a fast triad. What here is within my control? What appears as a limit but is only an option? What is the smallest, decisive step that moves me 1 inch forward? Then take that step before your feelings finish voting. You are not aiming at heroism, you are aiming at momentum. Momentum is simply action repeated quickly enough to outrun the story that you are inadequate.
People notice your self-talk even when they cannot hear it. They watch your micro-reactions to friction. They see whether you escalate complaints or competence. A man who leans on, I can't, trains others to expect rescue. A man who quietly reframes and moves trains others to trust his word. This is not performance, this is dignity. Reliability grows from hundreds of small moments where you attempted without drama and corrected without excuse. You do not need applause for that. You need a ledger you can read at night and recognize as your own. Real constraints exist. Physics will not bend to mindset. Deadlines pass. Bodies have capacities that expand only with time. Other people have rights. Stoicism is not delusion, it is disciplined agreement with reality. When a constraint is genuine, stated cleanly, given the current facts, X is not possible by Y. Then pivot. What remains under my control? Can I renegotiate scope? Can I produce an alternative? Can I sequence the work differently so some value lands now and the rest later? Notice how different this sounds from I can't. One statement shuts the door, the other tests every hinge and window. Run a 7-day drill. Each time you feel the old phrase forming, replace it with the Stoic counter and chain it to behavior within 60 seconds. I don't yet know how, but I will find a way, and here is my next smallest action. Then do it. The speed matters. Hesitation is the oxygen of weakness. Starve it. At night, review the day for 90 seconds. Where did I can't try to sneak in? Did you catch it early or late? What action followed the replacement phrase? Score like a coach, not a prosecutor. Identify patterns, certain hours, certain contexts, certain people, and design against them. If this sounds simple, that is because it should be. Complexity is often camouflage for avoidance. You do not need a new identity. You need a narrower gap between what you claim to value and what you do in the first hard minute. I can't is the first of 6 phrases we will hunt because it is the seed. Plant it and you grow a garden of smaller attempts in every domain: money, craft, love of the body. Uproot it and you clear ground for strength to take root. Speak less about your limits. Train more inside them. Replace the phrase, take the smallest step. Let your character, not your comfort, decide what happens next. There is a softer form of quitting that hides beneath the language of innocence. It does not shout or plead, it shrugs. It's not my fault. Those 4 words feel like a warm blanket because they excuse your conscience from the cold floor of accountability. Yet the price of that warmth is agency. Each time you pull this blanket over your head, you place your future in the hands of events and people you cannot command. The Stoics did not romanticize guilt, but they treated responsibility like a muscle. It grows when you load it and fails when you baby it. The aim is not to become a martyr who absorbs blame for everything. The aim is to become a man who refuses to outsource the next move to anything he cannot control. When you refuse to carry the weight that is yours, you also refuse the strength that would have been built by carrying it. Consider a missed opportunity. You were passed over for a role, outpaced by a competitor, sidelined in a relationship, or blindsided by a market shock. A dozen external causes line up instantly to testify on your behalf: office politics, bad timing, the economy, a fickle client, a partner's mood, a friend's betrayal. Many of those causes may be true, and Stoicism does not ask you to deny them. Denying reality is weakness, disguised as optimism. The danger lives in the second sentence that sneaks in behind the facts. Since it wasn't my fault, there is nothing to do. That is the poison. Responsibility is not a verdict about yesterday. It is authority over today. You are not responsible for the wind, only for the angle of your sail. You are not responsible for the tide, only for when you launch. You are not responsible for another's character, only for the boundaries you draw around your own. Epictetus gives the lever that frees men out of paralysis. Some things are within our control and some are not. It is not a slogan. It is a tool. It's not my fault blurs that lever into fog that feels kind to your pride but is cruel to your progress. When impact hits, run a simple protocol that returns you to strength. Event, interpretation, action. Action. The event is the raw data. The email arrived, the number missed, the tire burst, the promise was broken. The interpretation is the story you tell about the event, the script your mind blurts out in the first 60 seconds. The action is the behavior you can take right now that preserves virtue and creates the highest expected value. Most men confuse the three, treating the interpretation as if it were the event and delaying action until the universe apologizes. A Stoic separates the data from the drama and acts inside the circle that remains. Put the protocol on paper, because thought that never touches ink tends to wander towards self-pity. Start a page with 3 short lines under the problem you want to explain away. Line 1, event, 10 words or fewer, no adjectives. Shipment, delayed 2 days by vendor. Line 2, interpretation, the sentence your mind shouted. They don't respect us. This always happens to me. Line 3, action 1 step in the next 15 minutes. Call the client, own the delay, offer 2 mitigation options, confirm new date by email. If your interpretation spills beyond a single crisp line, you are building an alibi, not an explanation. Trim it to bone, then execute the action before your feelings finish voting. If you must speak publicly about the problem, speak like a builder, short, specific, forward-leaning. Here is what happened. Here is what we are doing. Here is when you will hear from me again. But what if it truly wasn't my fault? That question matters, especially to the injured child in each of us that wants the ledger balanced before effort resumes. The Stoic answer is unsentimental. You are not responsible for what was done to you. You are responsible for who you become in response. Blame points backward and down. Responsibility faces forward and stands up. Responsibility without self-loathing is not self-flagellation. It is self-respect. It declares, I will not let the worst parts of the world draft my character. That stance unlocks options. When you stop arguing with the weather, you can finally choose a route. Practice this in low-stakes frictions, so you are ready when the stakes rise. The delivery was late because a teammate dropped the ball. Your reflex is to draw legal borders around your innocence. State the fact once, without drama. The handoff failed on our side. Then pivot. Here is what I will do to prevent recurrence. Ask what you could have done to foresee the drop or make it survivable. Identify the single ambiguity that enabled the failure, undefined owner, floating deadline, vague quality bar, and remove it from your system permanently. Create early warning triggers that assume human fallibility, including your own, checklist gates before release, automated reminders 48 hours before any delivery, explicit owner by name on every task. Reliability is not a mood, it is a design. Your journal can be a factory of strength or a museum of grievances. Convert yours. Keep a running chain of causes for one problem this week. Map it backward, 3 steps without moral labels, no villains, no halos, only mechanics. Where did ambiguity live? Which handshake lacked a date? What signal did you ignore because goodwill felt easier than clarity? Now design a countermeasure for each link, a template email that demands explicit acceptance of deadlines, a calendar trigger that pings you with assumption check. 48 hours before any milestone, a short definition of done that fits in 3 bullet-free sentences. Review the chain every night for 90 seconds. You are not hunting guilt, you are installing guardrails. Watch what the phrase, "it's not my fault," does to your attention. It trains you to lock your gaze on the culprit or the circumstance. Attention is nourishment. Whatever you feed grows. If you water resentment, resentment grows. If you water design, design grows. Replace the phrase with a line that points your vision back at the levers you hold. Regardless of blame, the response is mine. Say it quietly enough to hear its weight. Then convert it into behavior you could explain to a 12-year-old without metaphors. Call the client. Reprioritize the queue. Draft the apology that names facts and fixes, not feelings and excuses. Move resources from the comfortable to the necessary. Close a loophole. Draw a boundary. Ship the small win that keeps momentum alive while the larger fix cooks. Guard against the subtler error, self-blame disguised as responsibility. Some men here own it and turn every misfortune into proof that they are defective. That is not Stoicism. That is vanity in sackcloth. Responsibility is surgical. It targets controllable inputs and habits. It ignores cosmic accounting. When you miss, you adjust the input and repeat the rep without theatrics. When others wrong you, you enforce consequences and withdraw energy from unworthy arrangements. You do not sermonize your strength. You design your life so weakness has nowhere to sit. Ritualize the first hour of your day to grow this muscle. Before the world's narratives invade, assign one hard thing that eliminates a recurring excuse and do it before your day can invent reasons. Send the pitch you keep polishing. Lift the weight you keep skipping. Make the call you keep delaying because the outcome is uncertain. Momentum earned early becomes a story you retell to yourself all day, I respond. And when the afternoon hits you sideways despite a clean morning, because life does not consult your plan, you run the same protocol again. Interpretation. You do not wait for motivation. You create it by moving. If "it's not my fault" has been your refuge, expect withdrawal. You will crave the relief of exoneration. You will hunger for witnesses to certify your innocence. Smile at the urge and let it pass. You are training a different pleasure now, the quiet satisfaction of closing gaps you can control. That pleasure does not trend on platforms, but it compounds in private. Weeks from now, you will notice people look to you when things go wrong, not because you accept abuse, but because you convert chaos into decisions. You will recognize a new reputation forming around you, the kind you cannot buy. When pressure rises, this man does not flinch and he does not hide, he acts. He acts. This series is about removing phrases that thin your presence. "It's not my fault" is one of the quietest and deadliest because it sounds so reasonable. Replace it with the line that returns you to the field of play. "Regardless of blame, the response is mine." Then take the smallest decisive step in the direction your values already chose. Strength is not the absence of injury, it is the habit of response. Keep that habit alive when the wind is against you, and it will carry you on the days it finally changes in your favor. There is a sentence people use to appear practical while secretly surrendering control: "I don't have time." It sounds like a neutral weather report, a calm observation about the sky of your day, but it is actually a confession about priorities dressed up as a law of nature. Everyone lives under the same sky. The Stoic hears that phrase and refuses its fatalism because time is the clearest mirror of character. Your calendar is not a spreadsheet, it is a biography. Whatever makes it onto the page is what you have chosen to value, regardless of what you say in speeches when the day is over. Tell me how you spent the last 14 hours, and I will tell you who you are training yourself to become. Imagine you wake and the phone is already asking for you. Messages flash, headlines compete, and a dozen soft obligations pile like laundry on the chair where discipline was supposed to sit. Noon arrives, and you have been spinning for hours without touching the single thing that would have moved your life forward. The phrase floats up like a sigh: "I don't have time." The day nods sympathetically while stealing another hour. A Stoic does not argue with the theft, he changes the locks. He stops believing that time will someday arrive as a gift and begins behaving as if it were a craft he must practice each morning. Time expands for the person who decides what matters before the world votes. Start with an audit, because stories dissolve in the light of data. For the next 24 hours, track everything you do in plain language as if you were writing a police report on your own day. No euphemisms, no virtue signaling. Not research, but watched 4 videos and half-read 2 articles while switching tabs. Not bonded with friends, but scrolled and sent 47 messages while avoiding the draft. Use a pen, because ink slows the hand and forces honesty. When the day ends, circle each entry that clearly served your values and strike a line through each that did not. Most men are shocked not by how little time they have, but by how much time is leaking through tiny, pleasant holes. Once you see the leaks, install valves. "I don't have time" dies fastest when you replace it with a sentence that tells the truth without drama. "It's not a priority for me right now. Here's what is." If you cannot finish that second clause, your life is not short on hours, it is short on hierarchy. The mind abhors a vacuum of priorities and fills it with other people's urgencies. Choose your own and declare them to your calendar like vows. Block 2 or 3 immovable anchors into your day that reflect who you intend to be, not who your impulses feel like being. Protect those anchors with the same seriousness you would use to protect a child crossing a busy street. Build by virtue rather than by task. The Stoics treated courage, justice, temperance, and wisdom as daily disciplines. A block labeled courage might be the difficult conversation you keep delaying, or the sales call that makes your heart race because the answer could be no. A block labeled justice might be an hour invested in a colleague, a child, a parent, or a neighbor, a promise to your community that pays nothing except self-respect. Temperance is the time you spend simplifying, pruning, setting boundaries, and removing a small pleasure that is quietly taxing your strength. Wisdom is reading, thinking, and writing that sharpen judgment. Arrange your day so at least one block trains each virtue across the week. Your life will start to look less like a to-do list and more like a character program. Design your environment so your better self wins by default. Where you are weak, add friction. Where you are strong, remove it. The phone that steals your focus should sleep in another room. Screens can switch to grayscale after sunset, so novelty loses its feathers. Your browser should open to a blank page, not an engineered river that carries your attention away. The gym bag lives by the door, packed the night before, so laziness has to step around it to proceed. Meals become simple when you are busy. Decision fatigue hunts in your kitchen. Remove one choice you keep losing, and you will regain an hour you thought had vanished into fate. Busyness is the counterfeit of strength. Men often confuse exhaustion with importance and motion with meaning. It is easier to wear fatigue like a medal than to admit your schedule is built on fear of the one task that would actually matter. The Stoic suspicion is blunt. If you are constantly out of time, you are avoiding something that would shrink your chaos if you faced it. Name it without poetry. The conversation you owe that could sting for 10 minutes and save you weeks. The appointment you keep postponing because the results might change your habits. The spreadsheet that would expose your finances without mercy and give you the dignity of a plan. Face the hard thing and the fog of busyness thins. Meetings are where time often goes to be seen instead of used. If you must attend them, demand clarity like a miser demands receipts. Enter only if a decision must be made and an owner must be named. Insist on an agenda sent beforehand and refuse to let conclusions dissolve into polite fog. End every gathering with a single sentence that names the person, the deliverable, and the date. If you are not the senior person in the room, you can still model this by sending a follow-up that nails facts to the wall. A calendar full of meetings without decisions is a confession that no one is steering the ship. Batch the shallow work so it stops ambushing the deep. Email gets 2 windows, not 18 cracks in your day. Messaging apps become asynchronous again when you turn off the dopamine machine that is notifications. You are not a firehouse, you are an artisan. Build 90-minute blocks where the door is closed, the phone is elsewhere, the status is "do not disturb," and your attention is pointed at one hard problem like a beam. When the beam dims, rest on purpose rather than pretending to work. Walk without the phone, drink water, breathe through the nose, and return with the kind of focus that tired people mistake for talent. Families, children, and caring for others complicate this, not because they steal time, but because they reveal your real values. A Stoic does not resent duties, he integrates them into the plan and lowers his ego about what productivity must look like. If your season demands interrupted blocks, designed for it. Use micro sprints of 30 minutes. Keep an index card that lists the next 2 steps so you can re-enter a task without respinning the mental flywheel. Share a calendar that makes expectations explicit and replaces hints with agreements. You are not failing if your plan flexes. You are only failing if your standards collapse when the plan flexes. Mind the difference between time and energy. Some hours are cheap, others are gold. Guard your morning like a vault. If that is when your mind is sharpest, put the heavy thinking there and push errands to the edges. Sleep is not a luxury. It is an ethical choice that protects the quality of your judgment. Be skeptical of caffeine as a substitute for integrity. It can rent alertness at the price of tomorrow. Alcohol steals 2 days for the price of 1. Sugar bribes you now and invoices you later. Temperance is time management for the body. Make your language as precise as your schedule. Replace the lazy poetry of busy with statements a craftsman would respect. From 8 to 9:30, write the draft of Section 2 offline. At 10, call Anna and close the loop on the vendor delay. After lunch, lift for 40 minutes and then review finances for 30. When you speak this way to yourself and others, you make fewer appointments with distraction because you left fewer gaps for it to sit in. Precision is a kindness to your future self. Vagueness is permission for weakness to improvise. Close the day with a ritual that humbles ego and trains foresight. Review what you did without prosecuting yourself. Identify one choice that bought you hours and one indulgence that cost you hours. Forgive the indulgence and design against it. Schedule tomorrow's anchors and lay out the first tool you will need for the first task. Write the single sentence you want your day to prove true. Then sleep like someone who intends to keep his word in the morning. You will not control tomorrow, but you will recognize yourself in it. Finally, make a small trade that compounds. Identify 30 minutes of noise you can cut every day. 1 television episode, 1 loop of social media, 1 commute spent complaining, and convert it into a training ground for a virtue. Read pages that enlarge wisdom. Practice silence that grows temperance. Do the hard, honest outreach that demands courage. Serve someone without announcement and call it justice. In a month, you will have reclaimed 15 hours and turned them into a stronger person. The phrase, "I don't have time," will feel less like the truth and more like an old habit you no longer respect. The world will continue to offer you the alibi of scarcity, and there will be days when it is partly true. Emergencies arrive, bodies falter, money tightens, loved ones need more than you plan to give. The Stoic does not deny this. He simply refuses to let those days become his identity. He will not build a life on the phrase, "I don't have time." He will choose a truer sentence that restores agency. "It's not a priority for me right now. Here's what is." Then he will prove that sentence with behavior, the next smallest decisive action taken now. Now some exciting news. Our channel now offers a members club. By joining it, you'll unlock exclusive benefits, deeper content dives, and personal insights. Join us on this journey, and let's build a meaningful life together. And I also humbly ask you to leave a comment, as it helps my channel immensely. If you do not know what to comment, just write "better every day," so I know you reached this far. And don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Also, I've linked some books on Stoicism that helped me become the man I am today, and will also help you achieve a Stoic mindset. Few sentences sound more harmless while doing more damage. It pretends to be self-knowledge, but it often functions as an alibi. A man says he's not a morning person, and so he trains his mornings to be worthless. He is bad with money, and so he stays ignorant of where it goes. He is hot-tempered, and so he asks others to tiptoe while he refuses to train his reactions. The Stoic does not dislike identity. He distrusts identities that exempt him from practice. Character is not a label to be displayed. It is a craft to be repeated. When a phrase protects you from the next rep, it is not identity, it is an excuse decorated as honesty. The sentence sounds modest, but it grants permanence to behavior that has only been rehearsed. What you often call who I am is really what I keep doing. Begin with a simple distinction that ruins many excuses: essence versus habit. Essence is the rational faculty shared by all people, the power to notice impressions, to withhold assent, to choose. Habit is the scar tissue wrapped around that power. When you say, "That's just who I am," you are rarely describing essence, you are defending scar tissue. The Stoic path starts where the pain is, not because suffering is noble, but because it is honest. If a trait keeps stealing opportunities or peace, call it what it is: a trained response that can be untrained. You are not a machine built in a factory, you are a workshop under construction. The tools are attention, repetition, and standards. The blueprint is virtue. The job is never finished, but progress pays daily dividends in dignity. Do an identity audit without poetry. Write a tight description of the behavior, 10 words or fewer, as if a camera recorded it. Then write the cost in equally plain language: the lost sale, the weakened trust, the broken sleep, the afternoon wasted in rumination. Now ask a hard question the old identity cannot tolerate. What single behavior would contradict this label within 60 seconds next time it appears? The goal is not to compose a new biography. The goal is to install a new reflex. The smaller the behavior, the faster it can be repeated, and repetition is the only proof a nervous system respects. Training begins small because small sticks. Grand reinventions burn hot and fade fast. The mind respects what it repeats. Choose one micro behavior that contradicts the old label and practice it until boredom replaces fear. If you call yourself impatient, your drill is not to become a monk by Friday. Your drill is to ask one clarifying question before responding in any disagreement. If you call yourself shy, your drill is not to host a room. It is to meet one person's eyes, ask one question with real curiosity, and hold silence long enough to hear the answer. If you call yourself disorganized, your drill is not to buy another system. It is to close the day by naming tomorrow's first action on a single index card you will see before any screen. 1 inch of order, practice daily, embarrasses a shelf full of theory. You will feel fraudulent while you practice. Growth always begins as an impression that does not yet match your archives. The body protests. The old story submits evidence. Witnesses appear to testify that the old you is the true you. You are not required to argue with witnesses. You are required to keep the new behavior alive long enough to create fresh witnesses. The nervous system does not update because you posted a declaration. It updates because you executed the same small act across enough contexts that prediction finally changes sides. Do not wait to feel authentic before you act. Act until authenticity catches up. Consistency manufactures belief. Design the arena so the new behavior has a fair fight. Environment often beats intention. If you are trying to train temperance, do not stage your evenings in places designed to sell you more than you need. If you are trying to train courage, make the brave choice the path of least resistance by booking it in advance and placing money, reputation, or accountability on the line. If you are training wisdom, defend reading and solitary thinking from the scavengers of your attention by scheduling them when you are freshest and by denying them the company of your phone. A rule of thumb: where you are weak, add friction; where you are strong, remove it. Let architecture do part of your discipline. A powerful lever is the if-then plan. The brain loves completed patterns. Give it one. If I feel my voice rising, then I inhale through the nose for 4 seconds, exhale for 6, and ask one question before stating my view. If I start to rationalize a purchase with the phrase "I deserve," then I open the budget, look at the next obligation, and wait 24 hours. If I catch myself saying "that's just how I am," then I restate it as "that's how I have been," and here is the smallest behavior that proves who I am training to be. The script is not magic, the repetition is. You are writing cues for your future self to find when adrenaline has shortened your attention. Keep score like a craftsman, not like a judge. Each night, locate one moment in the day when the old identity tried to take the wheel and note whether you installed the new behavior. Do not write paragraphs. Write 3 short lines: situation, behavior, outcome. If you missed, design the next rep. If you hit, log it, and do not celebrate as if you discovered fire. Pride is a poor teacher. Quiet accumulation is a better one. After 7 days, look for patterns. A person who triggers you, an hour when you crack, a location that dissolves your standards. Adjust the plan for the pattern, not the fantasy image of a better day. Training is not a sermon, it is a schedule. Beware the romanticization of authenticity. A culture that confuses raw impulse with truth will tell you that change is a lie, that editing yourself is cowardice, that who you are is a sacred kernel to be protected from discipline. The Stoic response is stern and kind. Your impulses are not your identity, they are petitions for energy. Some petitions you grant, others you deny. The criterion is not convenience, it is virtue. Are you becoming more just, more temperate, more brave, more wise? Authenticity without virtue is merely consistency with your worst rehearsals. Better to become consistent with your best decisions. Relationships will test your new stance. People around you often have contracts with your old identity. They learned how to pull the strings of your predictability. When you stop playing the part, some will accuse you of being cold, arrogant, or fake. Do not argue. Offer consistency instead. Boundaries explained once and enforced gently are a gift to any relationship that has a future. If you have been the clown, still be warm and playful, but stop paying for every room with self-disrespect. If you have been the savior, still be generous, but stop rescuing adults from the consequences that would teach them. If you have been the ghost, practice staying through the discomfort of clarity until the conversation ends clean instead of convenient. Occasionally, you will discover a trait that truly reflects a natural strength or limitation. Acceptance is not weakness, it is orientation. The Stoic honors the shape of his capacities, the way a navigator honors the coastline. You do not curse the rocks, you learn the channels. If your attention is narrow but deep, do not build a life that demands constant social improvisation. Build one that rewards long focus and strategic bursts. If your body runs cooler than others, you may never enjoy loud rooms. Choose environments where calm is currency. Adaptation is not betrayal of self, it is stewardship of self. Language is the chisel. Replace "that's just who I am" with "that's who I have been." Here is who I am training to be. Here. Speak the sentence and then prove it with a single act while your mouth is still warm. The act can be embarrassingly small. Reply with clarity instead of sarcasm. Ask for time to think instead of performing certainty. Leave a room that punishes your standards and go build something. The brain files behavior before it files slogans. When doubt returns, and it will, point to the ledger. Confidence that is not earned is costume. Confidence that is earned is quiet. Finally, let time do its work. Identities age out when they do not receive reinforcement. If you stop feeding a story, it stops visiting. Keep repeating the new behavior until people stop acting surprised. Then keep repeating it until you stop acting surprised. The quietest proof that you have changed is boredom, when the once heroic act becomes routine and the room no longer requires announcements. You do not owe anyone a press release. You owe your days a standard. Train until the standard is the story. I deserve better. It rolls off the tongue with the dignity of a courtroom statement, but most of the time it is only resentment trying to sound noble. You say it after a slight, a disappointment, a month when the hours you gave outnumbered the thanks you received. The phrase feels protective because it points at an invisible judge who, if he were awake, would surely rule in your favor and force the world to behave. The Stoic does not petition invisible judges. He audits himself. He asks whether the sentence purchases anything except a brief chemical relief. Does it make you stronger, clearer, more precise? Does it increase your competence, your boundaries, your usefulness? Or does it shrink you into a spectator of your own life, waiting for justice like a bus that no longer runs? If the sentence cannot be converted into action that lives inside your control, it is not philosophy, it is entertainment. Begin with the difference between worth and outcome. As a human being, you possess inviolable worth. No career, partner, follower count, or bank balance can add to it or subtract from it. But outcomes do not care about that worth. They care about causes. The market cares about value delivered, timing, leverage, and trust. A relationship cares about presence, honesty, boundaries, and consistency. Your body cares about sleep, movement, and what you feed it. When you say, "I deserve better," you are lashing your infinite worth to finite outcomes and calling the rope fairness. The rope snaps, and you call it fate. The Stoic separates the two. He honors his worth by refusing humiliation and practicing justice. He earns outcomes by aligning inputs with reality. The sentence he prefers is simpler and far more demanding. I will earn better by becoming better. Resentment is a poor architect. It can demolish, but it does not know how to build. If you have repeated the phrase for months, look around and notice what has grown. Late-night rants, alliances built on complaint rather than standards, a posture that waits for correction instead of initiating it. Waiting is not strategy, it is decay with manners. Strategy lives in 3 questions, asked without theatrics. What levers are inside my control that reliably influence the outcome I say I want? Which of those levers am I willing to pull every day for the next 90 days? What will I prune so those pulls actually happen? The questions hurt because they require a trade. I deserve requires applause. I will earn requires a calendar. Take money, the arena where this phrase often appears in disguise. I deserve better pay is a sentiment. Here is the drought-resistant value I deliver, and the evidence that it moves needles others care about is a plan. The first invites debate. The second invites negotiation. A Stoic crafts a value map, like a builder drafts a blueprint. He identifies the concrete outcomes his work creates: revenue produced, churn reduced, risk mitigated, time saved, and he attaches numbers that someone else would choose without being hypnotized by his enthusiasm. He documents these outcomes in clean before and after comparisons, not adjectives. He anticipates objections and builds counters with data rather than heat. Then he asks, not as a beggar for fairness, but as a partner in value creation, for an arrangement that ties his upside to the value he will continue to produce. If the room cannot or will not make such an arrangement, he does not camp indefinitely at the border of resentment. He builds the bridge to a room that can. The same discipline applies to love. I deserve better often means I refuse to say what I need and enforce the boundary that would make it real. You can call this tenderness if you wish. The result is the same. You train people to ignore your standards. A Stoic does not control others, but he does control the rules of his own participation. Speak your needs plainly, once, without ultimatums or poetry. Do not demand mind reading. Do not keep a grievance ledger as secret leverage for later. If agreements are broken, enforce the consequence you promised, not to punish, but to protect your values. Leave, if leaving is the boundary that keeps your soul intact. Stay, if staying is an act of strength rather than a fear of emptiness. Either way, drop the chant that the universe owes you a curated partner. Become a partner whose character attracts and sustains the quality you seek, and relocate your energy to environments where that quality is normal rather than miraculous. The body listens to inputs, not slogans. I deserve better health changes nothing about sleep, food, and training. A month of consistent bedtime is more merciful to your future than a year of self-pity. The muscles you refuse to ask for help become jealous and take your mobility as collateral. The joints you keep explaining away take notes and repay you in pain with interest. Temperance is not aesthetic, it is logistics. Build 3 non-negotiables that travel with you regardless of weather: a minimum sleep window, a minimum daily movement pattern, and a minimum quality bar for what you consume. You are not chasing a perfect physique. You are refusing to outsource your brain to sugar, alcohol, and perpetual fatigue. When you feel the phrase, forming, "I deserve a treat," smile and ask whether you mean comfort or restoration. Comfort often costs tomorrow, restoration pays tomorrow. Choose like someone who intends to meet his own eyes at night. There is a tool that converts resentment into fuel without poisoning the engine, the essential effort scorecard. You pick 3 metrics that sit entirely inside your control and correlate with the outcomes you want. Sales might track daily outreach attempts, discovery calls booked, and proposals sent. Craft might track focused hours produced, iterations shipped, and feedback cycles closed. Relationships might track honest conversations initiated, boundaries enforced without drama, and acts of service completed with no announcement. You log the 3 metrics daily with no adjectives, no excuses, and no retroactive edits. If a day misses, it misses. If it hits, it hits. At the end of the week, you do not ask whether you deserve better. You ask whether you earn the right to expect better by aligning inputs with your stated aim. When the answer is yes and outcomes still lag, you adjust the strategy. When the answer is no, you adjust yourself. You will hear objections from within. One voice will say, "So I must live without justice forever." The answer is clear. Pursue justice, but do not pause your growth awaiting it. File the complaint, make the case, gather allies, change rooms when necessary. All of this lives inside the circle of action. What you do not do is sit on a throne of grievances and call it a strategy. Another voice will say, "But if I stop insisting I deserve better, people will exploit me." Exploiters rely on your vagueness. Clarity is harder to exploit. When you know what you will and will not accept, and you communicate and enforce it without performance, you become expensive to mistreat. Your silence stops being submission and becomes selection. You spend fewer afternoons teaching people how to value you because you have designed your life so that only those who already do can afford to stay. Language remains the steering wheel. "I deserve better" places emphasis on me and on a future that owes. "I will earn better by becoming better" places emphasis on the work and on the present you can touch. The second sentence is not self-loathing, it is self-respect. It assumes you are capable of growth, not dependent on gifts. It gives your hands something to do that is not scrolling, complaining, or rehearsing speeches for imaginary juries. Say it and then choose the smallest act that makes it true. Send the email that replaces hinting with negotiation. Cut the expense that keeps buying your future for today's pleasure. Decline the invitation that flatters your loneliness but taxes your standards. Open the book that increases the precision of your judgment and read 2 pages you will implement within 24 hours. Do not curate a new identity, practice a new deity. If you must keep one ritual from this chapter, keep the evening conversion. Before sleep, write 2 sentences. The first names any moment you found yourself saying or thinking, "I deserve better." The second translates it into an input you will execute tomorrow that either earns better or enforces better. Not a paragraph, not a manifesto. A single verb and a single noun that could be completed by a tired person with no audience. Cancel subscription, schedule meeting, draft proposal, lift weight, cook meal, set boundary, read chapter. Then sleep. Wake and do it before the world convinces you it can wait. The loop is humble and exacting. It rescues you from abstraction and hands you back a day you can inhabit. There will be seasons when you are, in truth, treated worse than you should be for reasons outside your control by people who do not care, in systems tilted the wrong way. The Stoic does not call evil good. He refuses, however, to hand evil compound interest by letting it draft his character. He adjusts his stance, enforces his lines, seeks redress where it is possible, and grows where it is not. He will not waste breath, insisting to the air that he deserves a better wind. He trims the sail he has, sharpens the keel he stands on, and keeps moving toward the shore he chose on a map that does not flatter illusions. The sentence at the core of this discipline is small enough to fit in your pocket and heavy enough to anchor your day: I will earn better by becoming better. Carry it where your hand can feel it. When the old phrase appears with its warm promise of fairness, touch the new one like a talisman and convert it into a single act. The act will look unimpressive to spectators who live on speeches. Let them speak. You are building. The dignity you've been trying to talk yourself into cannot be given to you. It grows in the quiet, where effort meets standard and no audience is required. It's not fair. You were born with a sense for symmetry, so the sentence feels like a reflex. Children shout it on playgrounds because they can already tell when the scales don't balance. Adults whisper it at desks and in bedrooms because they've learned that life can stay lopsided for long stretches and the room doesn't always care. The claim is not always wrong. Reality is not evenly paved. But as a way of living, it's fatal. When "it's not fair" becomes your inner weather report, you announce helplessness to yourself and ask the world to fix the forecast. The Stoic does not deny asymmetry, he denies paralysis. He treats unfairness like terrain, sometimes rocky, sometimes steep, never like a reason to drop the tools. Begin by separating three things your feelings love to mix: fact, fault, and duty. Fact: the distribution of hardship, praise, timing, health, and luck is uneven. Fault: sometimes you caused the problem, sometimes you didn't. Duty: regardless of fact or fault, you are bound to answer with justice and strength. Confusion starts when you let fact and fault cancel duty. Hardship strikes, and your mind, eager to be excused, points to the ledger of injuries and says, "Not my turn." The ledger may be accurate, the conclusion is deadly. Duty doesn't ask whether you deserve a gentler assignment. Duty asks whether you will keep your soul straight while you carry the one in front of you. When the sentence forms, "It's not fair," treat it like a fire alarm, not a judge's gavel. Alarms are useful. They tell you you're touching loss or imbalance. But if you sit under an alarm waiting for it to apologize, you'll cook in place. Mute the siren with breath and precision. Name the unfairness in 10 words or fewer, without adjectives. Goalposts moved after delivery. Agreement broken without notice. Illness erased months of training. Then move to the lever that never withdraws, your next controllable action. Sometimes that action is resistance, sometimes it's acceptance, sometimes it's redesign. Whichever it is, make it small, observable, and immediate. Send a renegotiation email with 2 concrete options. Rewrite the plan to land partial value on a new date. Ask for help with a deadline and confirm the new terms in writing. Motion that aligns with virtue beats rumination that flatters pain. Resentment offers theater. It hands you lines about how much you've endured and how little others have contributed. Many of those lines are true enough to wound you and false enough to waste you. Watch what resentment does to your posture. It bends you towards spectators and away from outcomes. You start curating evidence, auditioning for sympathy, and measuring progress by the volume of agreement you receive. Meanwhile, the problem, as real as it ever was, keeps living rent-free. Replace theater with design. Ask what one choice, repeated daily for a month, would shrink this unfairness regardless of who apologizes. Then build the smallest architecture around that choice so it happens when you're tired and no one is clapping. Guard your speech, because it pulls the wheel of your mind. It's not fair. can be replaced with a sentence that keeps you upright without lying. It's reality. I'll meet it with justice and strength. The second half commits you to two virtues at once. Strength without justice turns you into a bully who wins the wrong fights. Justice without strength turns you into a victim who writes elegant letters to fate. Together, they prevent hardening into bitterness or dissolving into helplessness. Perception management is a subtle battlefield. Unfairness tempts you to broadcast your injuries until the room adopts your pain as its map. Sometimes you must speak to correct ignorance, to rally support, to warn others. But learn the difference between speech that moves levers and speech that merely moves pity. The second corrodies you. Invest words where they become commitments. Ask of any statement, does it assign an owner? Does it set a date? Does it define done in language that would hold in a hallway? If not, it's fog. Clear the air or stay silent and go build. Your body is a partner in this fight. Sleep debt, blood sugar swings, and constant stimulation shorten your fuse and widen your sense of grievance. You'll call a red light unjust when what you're feeling is exhaustion. Temperance isn't a sermon about pleasure. It's the logistics of staying fit for judgment. Guard the inputs that hack your state, late-night scrolling that distorts your comparison set, alcohol that mortgages tomorrow's clarity, news cycles engineered to keep you enraged and inert. Movement, water, sunlight, and a bedtime you actually keep are not decorative. They reduce the number of false injustices you see and preserve energy for the real ones. Justice remains a duty even when the world withholds it. You are bound to protect the weak and tell the truth even when it costs you. Yet justice is not naive. It knows some arenas will not change on your timetable. The discipline is to keep your soul intact while you choose where to plant effort. You don't have to fight every battle to be honorable. You have to fight the battles that are yours in ways you can respect. One mark of maturity is the ability to disengage from a crooked game without poisoning yourself on the way out. Another is the refusal to let permanent grievance become your personality. You can be a man of justice without becoming a man of complaint. Often unfair is a mask for operational vagueness, expectations you never made explicit. You thought the company would reward loyalty. The company thought loyalty meant accepting static terms. You believed a friend would mirror the generosity you offered. The friend believed your generosity was a personality feature, not a contract. When resentment gathers, ask which expectations were implied. Convert them to proposals on paper. Here are the terms that make this sustainable for me. If we can align, I'm in. If not, I'll bow out cleanly. Proposal beats presumption. And if agreement is impossible, reality has done you a favor by ending a deal that could never honor your standards. Now collect the 6 sentences you've been pruning from your tongue and the 6 you're installing in their place. I can't becomes I don't yet know how, and I'll find a way. It's not my fault becomes regardless of blame, the response is mine. I don't have time becomes it's not a priority right now. Here's what is. That's just who I am becomes that's who I've been. Here's who I'm training to be. I deserve better becomes I will earn better by becoming better. And it's not fair becomes it's reality. I'll meet it with justice and strength. This is not motivational grammar. It is a new operating system. Each swap returns your hands to levers you actually hold. To make the swap stick, run a 14-day cycle simple enough to survive real life. Each morning, copy the 6 replacement sentences by hand, not on a phone. Beneath them, write one controllable act that will prove one replacement true before noon. Do it while the day is still young enough to be claimed. At midday, perform a 2-minute check. Which old phrase tried to hatch and which counter did you install? At night, write one line that names any unfairness you met and one line that names the action you took anyway. No paragraphs. A ledger, not a diary. Pair the cycle with accountability that doesn't depend on applause. Tell one person you trust that you're running an experiment. Share the replacements and the one act per day you'll use as proof. Ask them to expect a short nightly message. Proof, plus the act you took. No context, no emojis. Either you acted or you didn't. This minimal witness cuts through the fog that self-excusing language loves. After 14 days, review the thread together. Don't grade yourself on mood. Grade inputs. Did you do what you said you would under the weather you actually had? Expect the plan to be tested by days that do not care what you wrote. Illness, loss, betrayal, catastrophe. These are not scheduling problems. On those days, the replacements become lifelines rather than metrics. I'll find a way might mean I will rest without guilt. The response is mine. Might mean I will ask for help with precision. I'll meet it with justice and strength. Might mean I will stand beside the living and keep them fed. Virtue scales down when life collapses. You are not failing because you are human. You are proving your philosophy by refusing to let pain recruit your worst self. These sentences also change how you conduct conflict. When someone misuses you, you don't recite slogans to endure it. You enforce boundaries without theater. Its reality does not mean I accept abuse. It means I will trade illusions for action. You document agreements, insist on owners and dates, and walk when the terms become incompatible with your standards. You don't carry the poison of revenge. You carry your tools and start building where effort compounds. Quiet exits are stronger than loud stays. The room will learn, often faster than you expect, that you can't be bribed by flattery, stalled by excuses, or trapped by the fear of being called difficult. Carry one line out of this page and let it anchor your tongue. Fairness is a hope, virtue is a habit. Hope is beautiful and should not be mocked. Habit is how you keep moving when hope runs late. When your mouth starts to shape the old words, close it gently and let the new ones work. You are not persuading the universe. You are teaching your nervous system who is in charge. The world may not become fair because you became disciplined, but you will become formidable, and that changes more outcomes than speeches ever will. Now, if any part of this message has been helpful to you, leave us your like and comment, helping the algorithm recommend it to someone who needs it at this time. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss new videos. And if you look through the videos we've already uploaded, you're sure to find something to take with you. Have a good day.